Hello, folks. My name is JW with the National LiveScan Association. And this series here is kind of special to me here. We had a couple of incidents took place, and we want to share some things with you guys what to consider regarding first aid preparedness. I'm going to show you 3 real stories that I was involved with. Actually, I was involved with 2 of those. Other knew from a very close friend, and she shared experience with this. I'm talking this from a point of view from health-wise, mental-wise, from a person, not for first aid for a business. As for your credit cards got stolen, something like that. This is about human lives. So this is very important here. So I'm going to focus on 3 factors right here. And I want you guys to take these seriously and write these down, or at least take good notes, or think about what I'm sharing with you, because if it happened to us, it's going to happen to you. Hopefully not, but chances are it may. So the first thing I want you to think about here is when a person becomes nauseated. Now, I'm not a physician. I'm not a nurse. I have limited medical experience. Perhaps most experience I had probably came from Boy Scouts way back in the days. But here's the true story. A few years ago, somebody came to office after hours for fingerprinting. She was a nurse, but when she came to us, she was very rude. Beyond rude. It was so rude that I thought personally it was just a joke, a prank they're playing on JW here, because I have a lot of jokes. Those who know me here, you come to the office, I got tons of jokes. But it was so rude, I thought it was a joke. And the next thing I noticed, the client, she came for ink card fingerprinting. And the client became kind of a little nauseated, a little bit like that. And I really recognized what was about to happen in the next couple of seconds. Lucky for me, I had a big plastic trash can right next to the desk right there. So as she begins to vomit, she gave the trash can. After did at least 5 or 6 times, some serious. She was sick, became very sudden, and she threw up at least 5 or 6 times. And I had concerns that came to me automatically, because I kind of recognized all of a sudden what was really going on. Just by chance, when she came to our office, her purse was opened up. And when she was throwing up, she stopped throwing up. But I noticed in her purse, I didn't dig into her purse at first, but I noticed it was open, and I saw some things called sugar pills or gum. There's some folks who have certain medication where they need a big boost of sugar or some type of contents within that gum or that sugar pill to keep the blood from going to a certain level. The blood can't go for a certain level. I don't know technical terms. I call it sugar. Okay? So I gave her the gum or the pill, whatever it was at the time. And lucky for me, I had some orange juice down the hall. I brought them from that day. So I gave her my orange juice, the bottle she opened up. I opened up for her, and it's just there for her to put some fluids in her body. And I'm thinking to myself, now, okay, this wasn't a joke. She came here with a certain reason. I didn't foresee sometimes people behave differently before something's, because the body does things to you a certain way, but recognize then what took place. So after 20 minutes or so, she felt better. I stood right next to her. I stood right next to her to make sure she was fine. So I have a lot of close friends back in the days and some family members that share it with me. And I saw myself sometimes people go through certain conditions for having low sugar. So I recognized what was going on at that time. So once she was able to become more aware of what's going on here, first thing I asked her, we won't call medical, for a checkup and stuff. She refused, says, no, I'm fine. But we fingerprinted her, and then she left. Okay, then? And she left without even saying thank you. And I was fierce. But I'm going to share more about that situation later on. Okay, then? But that's just number 1. Beware sometimes a person becomes nauseated. You might make sure you do certain things to keep them from hurting themselves. First thing that comes to mind for me is have them sit down. I'm not going to give you all medical procedures, all emergency procedures, because like I said, I'm not a medical person. But please just think about these scenarios. What would you do if this situation happens? What would you do if you feel yourself becoming nauseated and you're away from your office or you're at your office? what would you do? What would come to mind if that was a client, or what would come to mind if that was you in your office full of people? Okay, then another thing right here, I just shared with you guys. Where did it go? I want to jump right back to what is first aid. Now, for me, in my own words, I see it as this right here: immediate treatment or care until advanced personnel or ambulance or EMT provide assistance to help the person recover to a better level. So pretty much that's my personal definition of what first aid is. Pretty much your first person on site gives some type of treatment or service, or aid, I should say, or care, until the professional shows up, or someone who's able to relieve you, has a higher capacity of experience to continue on until the person feels better, or they recover, pretty much, or they take them to the hospital. Now, we have persons also we experienced when we went off site. Actually, I'm going to skip that for a second. Fainting. Recently, we had a conversation with one of our members association where they're off-site doing a mobile fingerprinting, and they passed out. What would you do if that was your employee off-site doing some type of mobile service and they passed out, and you happen to be there? Or you might not be there. You got a phone call from the client saying, hey, your employee passed out. But what would you do as the business owner? Now, if this was you and you passed out and you come back up, you can hear it now, what would you do then? What things do you have put in place to continue on or to reschedule for the fingerprinting services? Or would you bring somebody with you sometime as a backup, just in case one person becomes unable to continue? What's your backup? Would the other person step in and continue on, just in case you had to go sit down someplace or you had an emergency call? What would you do? In this particular case, the person did pass out while they were fingerprinting. Lucky for them, they didn't have no major injuries when they fainted. And when the ambulance arrived, the person did recover. They were coherent at the time, but while talking to ambulance, the person passed out again. And these are true stories. The person's fine right now, by the way, fine. I've been calling for a whole week. And they did take a week off just in case anything pops up later on, some underlying condition, they can help identify it. The person was transported to the hospital. They get a whole bunch of scans and things like that. And the person is now fine today. But these things here, and I had another client before actually threw up on a mobile service. Lucky for us, her brother was there in the same office with her, but she was able to recover because it sounded like she had a very exciting night before. A lot of partying the night before, and they caught up with her that morning for fingerprinting. But these are just some situations I want you guys to think about when you're fingerprinting, folks, and just be aware. What if something happens, you might want to configure what caused this to happen. Was it just of age? Was it hot outside? What can you do to prevent this from happening next time? Did the person try to give you some symptoms, say, hey, you might drink some water, or whatever the case may be? What would you do? What can you do to put things in place? So here's some things we thought about recently again, and we have certain things we already put in place for us. Emergency contact list. Even if you, the person of your business, your medical information, or your insurance, if you have health insurance, the case may be, you might want to make that someplace easily accessible if there's an emergency. If you're hiring people to work with you, we recommend you have an emergency contact list to include any medical issue that you should be aware of. Okay, very important. If you don't have one and you're looking at the session right this moment, please, when we complete this session here, get one put together, or delegate that somebody else to go ahead and get back to office and put that together and collect that information. It's very important. First aid kits. For us coming from the military, myself, I got first aid kits all around the offices, all around, tons of first aid kits, tons of first aid kits. Now, depending on your type of work environment you have, there's like a low impact and there's something like a high impact, if I got that right, of what you may need to have on site for medical treatment. It could be something like a center for like a nurse's office, for example, something like that there. All depends on how big or what type of service you provide to the public or what type of work environment you have for your employees. But you should have an emergency kit. Even when you go on a mobile service, have an emergency kit and bring it out there with you. Put it right underneath that table while you're fingerprinting. It might not be for you, but it might be for somebody else. But please, get some emergency kits and keep them stocked and routinely make sure everything is updated and fresh, not expired. Did I say fresh? I should say just not expired. Bottles of water. Okay, have plenty of bottles of water because you never know what can happen, especially go outside for mobile fingerprinting. It might not be for you. It could be used for one of your applicants, clients. But one thing we haven't considered in the past is this one right here. And this is very important. Training and certification of employees. And I think I misspelled employees, so I should take that off the screen real fast so you can get that address right there. And please just keep that a secret. Don't tell nobody. Let's go ahead and see, can you regroup from this one right here? I think that was right, though. But training and certification for your employees. Let's go ahead and remove that word just to play it safe for today. We don't have nobody on our immediate team that's certified in CPR or have some type of certification medical field. But within the building, there's a whole bunch of folks who work in that capacity. But one thing we're going to put in place ourselves for this term here, for this particular quarter, is training. We got some members who have CPR training and somebody have other certifications. We can invite them to come to office or we go to them and schedule for some training. At least CPR, at least be some type of basic first aid awareness or some type of basic first aid. Those are one of our action items we're going to do for ourselves. And I challenge you guys to do the same thing. Get the first aid kits, get some bottled water out there someplace accessible, emergency contact list. Now, if you're not sure where to go for training, it's a good source right here. American Red Cross is a very good source. We do recommend that here.